of Azure VM, okay? And for people that are in class, we're able to walk through how to create an Azure VM. So we are going to continue from where we stopped. But before we continue, I want to show us how to create a free Azure subscription. I promised us that I need to show us how to create a free Azure subscription. So the free Azure subscription is for 30 days, and for people that want to possibly register and understand Azure better. Okay, so give me a minute. Let me quickly bring up my browser. Then I'm going to demo to us how to create a free Azure subscription. Okay. Okay, so I believe we can all see my screen. Yeah. Can we all see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Positive.
It's as simple as just writing Azure free trial, okay, on the Google or Bing, anyone you want to use, and you can click on the very first one or the second one, anyone you want. Okay, so when you click on this, it's going to bring you to this place. Hopefully, I'm going to have a very good internet speed today, and I can finish this off. Okay. Yeah. So after clicking on Start for free, you can create a free Azure subscription. It's as simple as that. Input your name, input your location, and yeah, we're going to see all other information that you need to input to create a free Azure subscription. Okay, so yeah, so I need to possibly let me think. I need to let me use another account. Okay, I don't know if I can use this account. Let's see. Let's see if it's not accepted. Yeah, it does. Yes. So now what this means is you can use any account. Either you have a Gmail account, you have a Yahoo account. Okay, you have a Yahoo account, you have a Gmail account. Let me open this in another browser. Okay, I'm going to reshare my screen. I'm going to open this in another browser. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Okay, so Azure free trial. I believe you can all hear me. Yeah?
Yes, we can hear you.
Start for.
Yes, I can hear you.
Click on start for. Yeah. So start for free, and let's see what it will come up with. Okay. So let me see if I can use my Gmail account. Okay. I have a Gmail account. Let me see if I can use that. Okay, I can use that. Let's remember my password. Oh boy. I believe I can remember my password. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I can't remember my password. That's funny. Anyway, so these are to create is as simple as that. You just go there, you sign in. It will give you a portal, and then you sign in with that. Okay, it's as simple as that. Let me see if I can use another account. Possibly it's going to accept that. I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot that password to that account. And let me try this. I have a subscription on this, but let me see if I can create a free a free subscription on this. Oh, thank God. Finally. Okay, so now to create a free subscription, I believe the screen should come up anytime soon. Okay, yeah. Okay, now to create a free subscription, it's as simple as this. Input your name. Let's wait for the internet to come up. It's coming up. Okay, so I can use it because obviously I have a subscription that I'm currently using. So it looks like you already have an Azure account, so I can use it. But for people that have not created an account before, you can log in and create a free account. So the free account is going to give you access to 30 days of free subscription, okay? And you can use it to access any resource for 30 days. Yeah. So I should just show us that. Let's go back to our presentation. And I want to be a little bit fast with the presentation today so that we can quickly finish on time. I promise not to go beyond 8 p.m. today. Promise not to go beyond 8 p.m. today. Okay. So I'm going to where we stopped on last week Wednesday, and we'll continue from where we stopped. So where we stopped last week was creation of the Azure VM. We're able to show how to create an Azure VM for people that are possibly familiar with the portal, just saying it for the very first time. Okay. Now today we'll be talking about Azure Compute Services, container services. Okay. Now when we talk about containers, many people have been hearing containers. Okay. And then when we talk about containers are like virtualized environment. View it like the same way you always view your system. For people that have a system and have an OS running on your system. So let's say you have your system, your laptop, and you have Hyper-V running or a VMware running on your system. You understand? You are virtualizing the environment. But in this case, you are not virtualizing the physical environment, you are virtualizing your application. Okay. Now, many people have asked, why is the reason for containers? I'm going to tell us the major reason why you have containers. Imagine you are a developer and you develop an application. Okay. You develop an application, a web application for a bank, let's say First Bank, for instance, and you are developing it on your system, for instance, and something happened, you need to or you want to send, okay, good, you want to send this same application to the customer, okay, to view. You understand? Now, when you are sending the application to the customer to view, possibly you want to see the source code, you want to implement it the same way you've implemented it. He needs to start downloading some dependencies, downloading possibly a PHP or Ninjas or PHP or .NET. He needs to start downloading applications. You understand? And after which he put your codes and he can possibly log on or check the code and okay, I log on to the application itself and ensure that okay, yeah, this application is good and fine. Okay. But imagine in those kind of situations, you might have different problems. Some might have issues with some might have issues with trying to set up. Some might have issues with firewall. Some might have issues with their port numbers. Okay, so the best way to it is you containerize the application. So when you containerize the application, it's as if you are carrying a bucket of water. You are taking water from this bucket to another bucket. You don't need to start installing dependencies. You don't need to start installing operating systems. You don't need to start installing .NET or PHP or MySQL or SQL Server. You understand? It's going to be like you containerize the application, more like you are making it like a folder. Imagine it like it's a folder, and you are taking the folder, you are giving someone the folder. Oh yeah, take my folder. And when the person takes the folder, the person can go to possibly HTTP a URL, and it can access what you have from his other hand. So with that, it is faster. The person don't need to do some additional work, like trying to reinstall the application, and trying to have the application dependencies running on the application. You understand? It's like if you are zipping your file, or you create a folder and you put all the files inside them. Can you still see my screen? Hello?
Negative.
Can you?
No.
No, your screen.
But you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. So we can see your screen now.
Okay, sir. So imagine it as if you are zipping your file. As you are zipping your file, you are giving another person the file. You understand? You are giving another person the file. It gets to the other person. The person unzip it, right? And after unzipping it, the person can view the application. That is how container works, and that is where Docker comes in. For many people, they've been hearing about Dockers, and that is how Docker is more like, and there are a lot of other tools you can use, but Docker is beginning to become a de facto for a containerized environment. So you can develop a web as a developer in your environment, and you want to give another person the same application. Instead of sending the source code to the person alone, you can containerize the application. And when you containerize the application, you can give it to the person. The person can unzip it, more like use a Docker to unzip it. It can Docker pull, Docker push, and he pulls the containers and installs the image on the system. And after installing the image on the system, it comes up with a URL. With a URL, it can log on to the application. So something that should take the person 3 hours to run, it will take him less than 15 minutes. That is one of the beauty of containers. Okay, and Azure has this in their, it has this kind of services on Azure. We have this kind of services on Azure. There's something called an Azure Container instance. Azure Container Instance. Okay, now what does an Azure Container Instance does? I believe most of us are familiar with GitHub, for instance. Okay, let me explain the same way the GitHub works. Now, as a developer, you write your code. Let's say you use a VS Code, or you use Sublime Text to write your code. It could be an HTML. It could be a .NET Core application you are writing. And after writing your application, for developers that are wise, what they will do is they will put their code on GitHub. Now, why did they put their code on GitHub? It's for DevOps. More like it's going to be like a CI/CD platform, whereby they can always go back to the code and modify it for themselves. Possibly they use it for this kind of client. For instance, they want to use it for another client. Instead of them building the code again from the scratch, they can pull the codes back from GitHub and they'll modify it and give the other customer what the customer wants. Now, in this case, this is just view it. This Azure Container Instances, view it the same way as GitHub works. But in this case, as you are containerizing your application, okay, you are uploading those containers inside ACI. Okay, you are trying to copy those applications. As you are containerizing the applications, you are trying to upload those applications or those containers inside an ACI. That is what Azure Container Instance does. It allows you to upload your containers into an Azure, and the solution is an Azure Container Instances. Imagine it the same way as Docker Hub, the same way Docker Hub works. That is the same way ACI also works. So it's a pass offering that allows you to upload a container. Okay. Now, there's another one for the Azure compute system. It's called the Azure Kubernetes Services. Okay, it's called the Azure Kubernetes Services. Now, there is something about containers. Now, in a container, you have, inside a container, inside a pod, you have a container. Okay, now a container cannot leave its own node alone. You can't span a container. A container cannot scale out on itself. I don't know whether you understand. Now, let's say I want to spin up 5 containers. You understand? And I have 3 nodes. I have 3 laptops. I have this container on my system. I have another container on Soga system. I have another container on Wale system. I can't scale out this container I have on my system to Wale system. I can't say Wale system should automatically create 3 containers on Wale laptop, or have 2 containers on Sulaiman's laptop. And why are the reasons why you need AKS, for instance, an orchestrator. Now, in an instance whereby you have an application running on my system, and let's say there are influx of people logging into that application, there is tendency that there will be there will be a lot of traffic hitting the application, and when a lot of traffic is hitting the application might be a little bit slow. Okay, now the best way to it is you can now mostly like scale out the application to other nodes. But in a container, you can't scale out to other nodes. Container only works with that only one node you have. I don't know whether we understand. Containers only can only happen in that one node you have. Now, if you are imagining to scale out to other nodes, let's say I have server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4. You want your container to span through those servers, server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4. You will be needing something called an Azure Kubernetes Services. Azure Kubernetes Services is an AKS. Now, it's a container orchestrator services for managing large numbers of containers. Okay. Now, when you have a lot of containers, you're having 100 containers, you need to manage them. Okay. And on Azure, what you can use to manage these containers is called AKS. Now, during this section, someone is going to be taking us on AKS. I think next week, someone is going to be presenting on AKS. I believe he's going to deep dive to us on AKS. I'm just here to let us have an understanding of how AKS works. Okay, I believe we understand. Now, there is another services on Azure called the Azure Network Services. Okay, now for people that have network backgrounds, so people that have network background, you discover that network is a very, very core resource when it comes to deploying of a VM. Okay, when you want to deploy a VM or you want to install an application. Okay, don't let me say application, for instance. Let's say you want to deploy a VM, and in the cloud, you will need a VNet. You will need a network. There is no way you are going to connect to your router. You are going to connect to your switch. You are going to connect to other person's laptop. You are going to connect to other servers without a network. Okay, and Azure provides something called an Azure Virtual Network. And what does an Azure Virtual Network does? It creates a secure communication between the Azure resource. Okay. Now, if you're having resources on Azure, let's say for instance, I have now I'm trying to think now. I have a VM here. Okay. I have one VM in West US, and I have another VM. Okay, now let me use that. Okay, let's say I have a VM. I want to create a VM. Okay. Now, to create a VM, there are 3 things that is important. One of them is network. Another one is storage, and another one is going to be what? Okay, that's the 2 that comes to my head now. But I know that you've been needing network and you've been needing storage. Now, for a network, for you to connect, for those Azure resources, for you to communicate securely on Azure, you will need an Azure Virtual Network. At the point of creating a VM, it's going to automatically create an Azure Virtual Network. That is if you have not created one for yourself. Okay, if you have created one for yourself, you can attach the virtual network to your VM. So let's say you have an infrastructure, or you have a plan for your VMs to communicate on 192.168.1.0/24. Okay. Now, before creating the VM, it's advisable you create a VNet first. Now, creating of the VNet, you need to specify that VNet 192.168.1.0/24, and from there you can create your subnet. Okay. Now, from the subnet, you can now have a NIC to that virtual machine. Now, when you are having more than one VM connected to that VNet, you can communicate, you can ping. It is going to be like you are in an office, and you need to communicate to another person inside the same office. It will be like you are in a single room and you are communicating with all the resources inside that one room. That is how Azure Virtual Network works. Now, for Azure Load Balancers, okay, Azure Load Balancers is for managing traffic. Okay, now let's say you have an application on Azure, or you have an application somewhere, and you don't want the application to go down or you don't want the application to go down at all. It's advisable you have a load balancer. It helps you manage your traffic. So if there are influx of traffic, if you have your application spin across different nodes, some application can go to node 1, some application can go to node 2, some application can go to node 3. These are there for you to manage or for load balancing. Okay, and when you are doing your load balancing, Azure can provide this for you. It's called an Azure Load Balancer. It helps you to secure or manage your traffic to and fro. Okay, how you access your application, how people access your services, how people access your application. You can use an Azure Load Balancer for that. Now, there is something called a VPN Gateway. Now, for VPN Gateway, now imagine if you have an on-prem. Okay, last week I was talking about hybrid connectivity. Okay, now I say for hybrid connectivity, you are extending your on-prem services to the cloud. So your on-prem and the cloud can communicate together. And how can the on-prem and the cloud communicate together? One way they can communicate together is by using a VPN gateway. So let's say I have my VM, or I have my router inside my local office in Ikeja, for instance, and my router is on 192.168.5.0 network. Okay, and I want to create a VM in Azure, and I want my VMs on-prem to access those VM without me going through the public internet directly. Okay, without me going through the public internet directly. So what you need to do is you need to create a VPN gateway. And what the VPN gateway does for you is it extends your virtual network to the cloud. So when it extends to the cloud, you can ping your VMs, the VMs you have in the cloud. You can ping them. Okay. Now there is another one called an Azure Application Gateway. Hello, are you getting me? Am I too fast?
Yeah, we're
Hello.
getting you.
No, we are okay. We are fine.
We're fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Now,
right.
if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box. I'm going to try to respond to those questions. Okay. I'm trying to keep up to time so that we can quickly finish up in time. Now, there is something called an Azure Application Gateway. Okay. Now, what does an Azure Application Gateway does? Now, let's say you have your web application, but in this case, your web application is not only in Nigeria. You want to extend you discover that your application is going to be viewed by people in France, in Australia, in Germany, in Israel, in Nigeria, in Costa Rica, anywhere in the world. It's best you have an application gateway. Now, when you have an application gateway, it helps you manage your web applications across your regions. So if you have the application span across, you can use an Azure Application Gateway to manage traffic for those web applications. Okay. Now we have something called a Content Delivery Network, CDN. And what does CDN does? Now CDN in this instance, now imagine if you have an application, you want to access Google. Okay, yeah, very good example. Now, for people that are conversant, if you are accessing Google for the first time, you discover that it will be very slow. Okay, now after a while, let's say after like 2 hours, when you try to access Google again, you discover that it is faster than when you wanted to access it at first. Now, what happens at that point is because the records have been cached to your local system. That's what happens. Now, the same way it works is the same way CDN works. Now, let's say you're accessing an application in the cloud. Let's say the application is in Australia South, for instance. That's where the application is. And we know that West Europe is closer to Nigeria. Now, if you try to access the application in Australia South, you try to access the application, it can take a while for you to access the application. But after accessing the application, it now brings the application, like the cache of the application, closer to you, closer to the location you are. So let's say the location is in West Europe, for instance.
No.
Now, if you are going to be accessing the application the next time,
Mhm.
instead of you accessing the application in Australia South, you'll be accessing the application in West Europe. And what does that for you? The application that does that for you is called a content delivery network. Okay? Are you following me?
Hello?
Are we all following me?
Yes,
We are following you.
Okay, good. Now, I'm going to the Azure storage services. Now, for storage services, we have three types. We have the structured data, we have the semi-structured data, and we have the unstructured data. I'm going to use example for us to understand. Now, when we talk of structured data, these are data that has more like database of like I need to create rows and column. You know, when you're creating rows and column, where do you create rows and column? You create it on MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL servers. Those are structured data, whereby you'll be having schemas. Okay, so these are structured data. So like financial data, they are structured data. All the data you get in the banks, they are structured data. Okay, now we have another type of data called the semi-structured data. Now, for semi-structured data, instead of them having rows and columns, they will be having keys and values. Okay. Now, when they're having keys and values, is something like, okay, if you are conversant with HTML, for instance, let's say you want to create a table on HTML. For instance, you will see that you can create different tables, and all those things, they are semi-structured data. Blogs, they are semi-structured data. WordPress, all those things you create on WordPress, they are semi-conduct data. They are not coming in the form of database. They are not coming in the form of rows and columns. If we understand, they are not coming in the form of rows and columns, but they are a little bit structured in a way. You know, you can go to home and see things. You can go to about us and see things. You can go to another tab and see things. So it's a little bit structured, but the structuring is not like a database structure whereby you have rows and columns. And examples are like your blogs, your books, ebooks that you read. They are semi-structured data. The HTML, if you are creating an HTML file, they are semi-structured data. Now, when we are now going to structured data, now structured data, they are like data that doesn't have keys and values. It doesn't have rows and columns. Something like PDF, for instance. For a PDF, you can't. It's not structured. PDF are not structured. JPEGs are not structured. PNGs are not structured. Your videos are not structured. Your pictures are not structured. You understand? And these are what blobs can hold. Now, a blob can hold an unstructured data, whereby for structured data, you can have something like an Azure database for your structured, or Cosmos DB for your structured data. Okay? Now, for Azure storage services, we have we have 4 types of services. Now we have blob service and blob storage, disk storage, file storage, and archive storage. Now I'm going to try to explain this for us to understand. Okay, now when we talk about blob storage, you can have any kind of data in them. You can have JPEG, you can have PNGs, you can have pictures, you can have your videos. So view it like the same way you have your OneDrive, for instance, or you have your which other one do people don't use? All these cloud services, OneDrive or Google Drive, for instance. We view it the same way as blob storage. Now in blob storage, you can only access it with HTTP. Now, if you are accessing your file with an HTTP, then you have a blob storage. Okay. Now we have another type called the disk storage. Now, what does the disk storage does? Now, somebody is asking, what is the size of a storage type? Now, there are different type of storage type. Now, we have the standard and we have the premium. Okay. Now, there are different between standard storage and premium storage. Now, for standard storage, I think it's 500 gig. Yeah. And for premium, now premium has different types. We have the P1, we have the P10, we have the P20, we have the P30, P40, and P50. Okay. Now, the P10 is 500. The P20 is around 1024. The P30 is around 5,000. And that's how it goes. I can't remember the other numbers off my head now. But now the way it works now for standard, their IOPS is lower. Now their IOPS for 500 gig is 500 gig. You understand? And the way it works is you don't have the 500 gig at once. Microsoft will tell you that you have 500 gig IOPS for standard, but you don't have the 500 gig at once. Okay. Now, but for premium, you have your IOPS are if Microsoft is giving you 1,000 IOPS for this disk, yes, you have 1,000 IOPS for that disk. Okay, and all this comes from the blob storage. You can have them for the blob storage. Now, for the disk storage, it provides your disk for you. Now, when you are creating your VMs, you have your disk stored inside a container. Okay. Now the containers where your disk is being stored, most of the time it should be a blob storage. Yes. Now disk storage always come with blob storage. Now you can create a container, and those containers you are creating, you can have your VM, and your application stored inside the containers. Now for file storage is a fully managed file share, more like the same way you access your files on-prem and you have whack, you have like / a URL, for instance. We'll try to demo this. Okay, now that is how a file storage works. Okay, now there is another part to archive storage. Now for some time, some people can have data whereby they don't access their files in 5 years. Now, instead of allowing Microsoft to bill you, you can archive your files. Okay, you can archive your files. And when you archive your files, it's as if you are telling Microsoft that they should help you keep your files, that you don't need it for now. And what are those kind of data? These are data possibly you have 10 years ago, you have 20 years ago, but you don't want to delete those files. You want them to still be stored somewhere. Okay. Yeah, somebody is asking, is this a service allowing multiple storage type? No, this is not the service that allows multiple storage type. Now, these services, you can select only one out of them. It's either you select blob, or you select table, or you select queues, or file storage. We should demo this. I think we're going to demo that. Yeah. So I will be demoing the blob storage and the file storage. Okay, do we have any questions?
Negative, you can proceed.
Okay, yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay, good. Now I'll be sharing my screen now. So we are going to demo creation of Okay, I'm trying to look for my screen. 1 minute. Okay, so let me know if you could see my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Positive.
Okay, cool. Now I'll be logging into the
Yes,
Azure
I can see.
portal now. I'll be logging into the Azure portal now. I'll be using my account to log in. If you have a question, you can ask. Okay, so this is my personal subscription. Okay, now yeah, I want to demo blob storage, right? So now what you need to do is you can just write storage account here. Now to create a blob storage, you need to firstly create a storage account. So now when you have a storage account, you can now create your blob or file or table. Okay, now I'll be creating a storage account. Okay, it's coming up, yeah? Okay, so now we are going to create a storage account. Now to create a storage account, now I need to specify the resource group, okay? So let me create a new resource group. I can say my new resource group is Azure, give me a name, Azure Bootcamp, something like that. Okay, now I created this resource group. Now I'm going to create a storage account. Now the storage account you'll be creating should be a storage account that has never been used before. The name of the storage account should be the one that has never been used before. Okay. Sorry, I'm having issues with my screen. Okay. Now the storage account. So let's still write the same Azure, learn Azure Bootcamp or learn Azure Moonlight. Learn. I'm sorry, I'm having issues with my screen here. Sorry about that. Okay. Learn Azure. Learn Azure Blue Moon, Moonlight, something like that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm having issues with my computer. Just a minute. Azure Moonlight. Light. Okay. Now let's say the location is West US. Now I explained earlier the difference between standard and premium. Okay. Now when you set your performance, now what let me say this thing for us so that people now we are saying now in storage you can apply whether you want your data to be hot or cold. Now what do I mean by hot or cold? Now hot means that these are data that you frequently access. So let's say data that you always every day you must access them. These are hot. These are data in the hot zones. Now, when you're talking about data in the cold zones, let's say these are data that you rarely access them. So let's say data that you access once in a week or once in a month. But when you're talking of data that you're going to be accessing that was being accessed 5 years ago, that is not going to be cold. That's going to be archive. You understand? 5 years is a long time. But if there are data that you still want them accessed like a month ago or 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, you can set a code. But if it is hot are like data that you frequently access. So that is what V2 gives you. But when you are using V1 doesn't give you whether it is hot or cold. Okay. Now, if I'm using blob storage, you can have hot or cold, but there are some disadvantage in blob storage. You don't have access to page blob, you don't have access to file share, you don't have access to tables, and you don't have access to queues. That is for blob storage. So in this demo, I will be doing a V2. Okay, and now for replication, now we have different kind of replication. We have LRS, we have ZRS, we have GRS, and we have RAGRS. Now, if you are setting your replication to LRS, I think I explained this the last time. Now, if you are having your files, you are having your services or your account inside one data center, you are having your 3 copies inside one data center. Microsoft always ensure that you have 3 copies inside one data center. Then you'll be using LRS. Now, if you need your 3 copies to extend beyond your storage account, your data center, but it's still within the country. So let's say, for instance, there are some countries that have more than one data center. Like I explained, some like US, they have West US, they have East US, and they have Central US, for instance. Now, if you need to extend your 3 copies across those data centers, you can set a ZRS. However, ZRS is not applicable to all locations. It's only applicable to some specific locations. Okay. Now, if I'm setting a GRS means that Microsoft is going to keep 6 copies. Okay, they are going to keep 3 copies in the primary data center, and they are going to keep 3 copies in the secondary data center. So the primary data center can be in West US, and the secondary data center can be in, let's say, in France, for instance, or in South Africa, for instance. It's going to be a geographical thing. It's not something that is going to restrict you to your country or restrict you to your continent alone. You're going to go outside your continent. So let's say you're going towards the Asia continent. Microsoft might keep the 3 copies in the Asia continent or keep the 3 copies in Africa continent. You understand? That is for the GRS. Now for RAGRS, for the read access geo-redundant storage. Now the 6 copies now, the other 3 copies, you will have a read access to the 3 copies. Whereas in the GRS, you don't have access to that 3 copies. But in this instance, you have access to that 3 copies. But it's going to be a read access. You can't modify. You can't write on that. You can't write on that file that you have in the other data center. Okay. So that's the explanation for this. Now the other part is networking. So for networking, you can set a public endpoint or a private endpoint to this. Now, if I'm setting a public endpoint, now you are creating a storage account and you want everybody to see your storage account, you can create a public endpoint. Okay. If I want to specify my storage account to some specific IP addresses or some specific network, I can select this and I specify my virtual network. Okay, that is for the public endpoint. Now, if I'm picking the private endpoint, I don't want anybody outside to access my storage account. I just only want people inside my my virtual network to access the storage account. And this is how to do it. You create a private endpoint with a subscription, resource group, region, subnet, and the private DNS. Okay, I'm going to do a public endpoint here. Okay, so I'm going to, and you can, for the others, you can just look at them. There are not a lot of things to that. So I'm going to create this storage account. Creating storage account shouldn't take time. Hello, are you with me? Hello.
Yes, we are with you.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yes, you are here.
Okay, so I'm creating a storage account. So hopefully it should finish. It shouldn't take time creating storage account. Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, yeah, so the storage account has been created. You can see it's created. Now I'm going to go to the resource. Now when you go to this resource, I'm not going to explain all these things for us, but I just want to explain this. Containers, file share, tables, and queues. Now for containers, this is where you have your page blob or your blog blob. Okay. Now when I click on containers here, I can give a name. I can say the name should be Azure lesson. So I can give an access. This one is no anonymous access, but since it's a demo, I can just do this. Give access to everyone. So the containers have been created. Now after the container is created, you can upload. So I can upload a file. So let's say I'm uploading a file. I can upload a file, for instance. So let's say I picked okay, let me pick this SRT file, or let me pick this certificate, for instance, and I placed it here. I can, okay, now for this, yeah, you don't need to worry about this this type. This is more like an advanced setup. But I was explaining earlier difference between the block type. We have the page blob, we have the blob blob, and we have the appends. Now let me quickly briefly describe the difference between them. Now page blobs is mostly used for your VHDs. So if you have your VHD files, your VHD, is better you put them in the page blob. But let's say you have your files, your like PDFs, your PPTs, your JPEG, your videos. It's good you put them in the block blob. Okay, so I'll be selecting block blob, and I'm going to upload. And that is how to create a block blob, as simple as that. Okay, now let me show us another part to it. I want to show us how to create a file share. A file share. So for file share, it's going to come like the same way you have your whack whack, more like / the name. You want to access another person's file. That is the way it's going to come, like the same way you share files. It's as simple as specifying names. I can say Azure lesson, for instance. I can set a quota. So I can say my quota, my in this file share, I shouldn't go more than 10 gig. Okay, I'm going to create. So this has been created. Now to mount it, so you might want to mount this storage account to your system. I'm going to click on connect here. Okay, it's going to give me a Z drive. Let me pick a F drive, or let me pick a J drive, for instance. So what you just need to do is as simple as just copying this PowerShell script. Just copy this PowerShell script. Okay, after copying this PowerShell script, go to your, let me stop this. Go to your PowerShell. Do I have a PowerShell up? I think I have one. I'm going to go to my PowerShell. Let me go to PowerShell. I've copied that. I'm going to go to PowerShell. I'm looking for PowerShell. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go to PowerShell. Okay, I believe you can see my screen. I can paste this command here, and I can clear this screen. Can you see my screens? Hello?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay, so I can apply this. So now I want to believe I have port 445 opened. Now, if port 445 is open on my firewall, this should mount a drive for me. The drive name will be drive J. Okay, I think it's trying to do that, attempting to, okay. So if it works, I can access my storage account. Now, anything I impute, so let's say for instance, I add a file to that, oh, it failed. Okay, so now the reason why it failed could be because port 445 is blocked on my system. I'm going to quickly open port 445 on my system. Give me a minute. I'm going to quickly open port 445 on my system. And I'm going to use PowerShell to open port 445. It's just a line of code that you need to run to open port 445 on your system. So I'm going to try to open port 445 on my system. Okay. Okay. Open port 445 on my system is as simple as running this script. I believe you can still see my screen. It's as simple as running this script. So this script is going to open port 445 on my system. So let me try this. This line 12. Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm going to do a net show advanced firewall. Let's quickly look for the script. We are going to open port 445 on my system. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. 1 minute. It's coming up. So I believe we all know how to open a firewall on our system, right? To open some particular ports on our system. Yeah?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. That's nice. I don't want to do it using the GUI. I want to use the PowerShell to do that. So I'm currently looking for the PowerShell script. I'm going to share the PowerShell script with us. So with that PowerShell script, you can open, yes. So yes, you can open ports on your system. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay. I'm going to open port 443 on my system. So I'm going to use this code. Okay. Now I'm going to modify this. So I can say this is open port 445. And allow, direction is in, action is allow, the protocol is TCP, and this is 445. Okay, so I need to run this to open port 445. Okay, yeah, so I need to run my PowerShell as a CM, as an administrator. So I'm going to quickly log on to PowerShell again as an administrator. Run as administrator. Hear me? So I believe this is it now. Okay, now I have this script now. So the first thing I need to do is to open port 445. Now, can you see my screen? Now I need to open port 445. And if you could see, it says port 445 is open. Now let me run this script again that I have here. Anyway, it should work. I don't know why it's failing. Possibly there is a block to that IP address, but normally it should work. Okay. Let's leave that and let's continue. But that is how to create a storage account. It's as simple as that. Okay. Let's continue with the demo. I have like 15 minutes, and I'm going to end this class. Okay. Okay, my slide is coming up again. Just give me a minute. Okay, so where
Sorry,
are we?
presenter. Please share the slide
Yes.
with us after this session.
Okay, sir. I think I've shared it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file on this Microsoft Teams having all our slides. Then we can go there and download any of those slides.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir. Okay, I've talked about Azure subscription. Okay, so now that is about Azure storage services. Now, another part is Azure database services. Azure database services. Now, for Azure database services, it's a fully managed PaaS database service. Okay, and it's the same. Instead of you having your database running on-prem, or instead of you spinning up your VM and start creating a database on your VM, and you need license and the rest, Microsoft is telling you that they can create the Azure SQL database for you. They can create the database for you, but in this case, it's going to be a PaaS. And you know, like we explained for the PaaS, they've already created the platform for you. Only what you only need to do is to insert the IP address to your Windows where you can access your database from, and when you have that, your management studio for your database, and when you insert the IP address with your credentials, username and password, you can start using your database. Now, with that, you are not installing your database. You don't have anything to do with installing your database. Okay. Now we have two types. We have the Azure Cosmos DB and we have the Azure SQL DB. Now, when we are talking about the Azure Cosmos DB, now Azure Cosmos DB is a globally distributed database services that enables you to elastically and independently scale throughout throughput and storage. Now, let's say you have a storage account, for instance. You need the storage account to scale. You want to scale your storage account automatically. So let's say your storage account, you are using a storage account in West Europe, for instance. You want your storage account to scale to Australia, to scale to South Africa, to scale to East Asia. You'll be using an Azure Cosmos DB. Okay, and it could, and with that your throughput is high. You have an higher throughput. So with that, you can use an Azure Cosmos DB for that. Okay. Now, when we are talking about Azure SQL database, Azure SQL database works the same way your Microsoft SQL server works. Okay. But the beautiful thing about the Azure SQL database is it provides you with the latest stable version. Now, for people that are conversant with SQL database, they know that after a while there will be updates on your SQL database, and you need to update your database. And in the form of updating your database, you can experience some downtime. Okay, but in the Azure SQL database, Microsoft will automatically or do the update for you. You don't need to do all the updates yourself. The only thing you just need is go inside your the SQL database. You can access it using Management Studio, for instance. Go in and start creating your rows and column. Okay. Now there's something called an Azure database migration. It's a fully managed services designed to enable seamless migration from multi-database sources to Azure data platform. Now, let's say you want to migrate from your on-prem database to the cloud. You can use an Azure database migration. You want to migrate from MySQL to Azure SQL database. You want to migrate from Postgres server, either on-prem, or you are running, even if you are running it in AWS, for instance, or you are running your SQL server in GCP, for instance, or you are running your SQL server on-prem, for instance, you can use an Azure database migration tool to migrate your database with the sources and all the data from the source, which could be another cloud services, or your on-prem, to Azure. Okay. Now, Azure Marketplace. Now, for the Azure Marketplace, this is more like a market. You know, when you say marketplace, is a place whereby you can buy. Okay, you can purchase. You can purchase. You can try. You can purchase. You can provision resources. Okay, from there you can see different products. It could even be third-party products. It could be an independent software vendor. It could be from a Microsoft partner, and it could be even from Microsoft themselves. There are over 10,000 products on that marketplace, ranging from Sophos to Barracuda to Ribbon to any application you are looking for. You obviously see it in the Azure Marketplace. Okay, I think I'll be stopping here. Yeah, I'll be stopping here. Let me see if I can take this. Okay, I'll be stopping here. Okay, so I'm going to take this and we'll stop. We'll take questions and we'll stop. Okay, now securing your network connectivity in Azure. Now, how do you secure your network connectivity? In this world, in this era we are, security is a major thing that we need to start considering. Okay, and you know, when you are running your applications in the cloud, one of those things you need to be cognizant of is your security. Now, how do you now secure your resources on Azure? One way you can secure your resources on Azure is called Azure firewalls. Okay, and what does an Azure firewall? Azure firewall is like a service on its own, more like a firewall as a service. Okay, and then what does it do? It grants and deny access to a originated IP address and protect your network resources. Okay, let's say for instance you have an application running, you have a VM running in your infrastructure, but you want to restrict access to that VM. So let's say you discover that there are hackers logging into your VM, let's say from Russia, for instance, or from US, for instance. You might want to block, or you are discovering that there's a particular IP address that is accessing your resources. you can deny access. It's something like an access control list. You can deny access to that IP address or to those group of IP address. You can even deny everybody and give access to your local IP address or to your public IP address. With that, you are the only one that can access your infrastructure. You are the only one that can access your VM. And how can you do that? You can use an Azure firewall. You can apply an inbound and outbound traffic filtering rules. You can apply a filtering rules to block ports. You can apply filtering rules to block the IP address, and you can set direction, whether it's going to be an inbound direction or it's going to be an outbound direction. And it is highly available. It's not something that goes down. It's highly available. It doesn't go down. It's running 24/7, and you can use an Azure monitoring for logs. So let's say the logs you get from the Azure file, it's stored inside a central place called the Azure Monitor. You can go to the Azure Monitor, and if you are good with your log analytics, you can be able to view those logs and be able to audit those information from the Azure Monitor. So this is one way to protect your resources. Okay. Another way to protect your resources is a distributed denial of service, which is DDoS, Ddos Protection. Okay. Now an hacker. Now, if you discover an hacker, one way what an hacker do is it can make your application run slow or make your application unresponsive. It can make your application run slowly or make your application unresponsive. Okay, and with that, the hacker is attacking your application. And when an hacker is attacking your application, it overwhelms. If it is a DDoS, it overwhelms and exhausts your network resource. So it can be sending some false traffic to your application, and sending a false traffic will overwhelm your network resources, and overwhelming your network resources will make your application slow or unresponsive. Okay, and how do you protect yourself from this? Is you can use an Azure DDoS Protection, okay, to protect your application from false traffic. Okay, it sanitizes unwanted network traffic even before it imparts your service availability. Before it gets to you, it sanitizes those unwanted network traffic, okay, and protects your Azure virtual network resources. Now we have an NSG, okay. Now a network security group filters your network to and fro, and filters IP address, filters the protocol, and filters the ports. Okay, if you discovered on Wednesday when I was creating my VM, I told you that by default Microsoft blocks all IP addresses. Microsoft automatically blocks all ports. You need to go to the NSG, which is the network security group, to open a port. So let's say I'm accessing a VM, a Windows VM. I know that for me to RDP, to remote connect to that VM, I need to open port 3389. So you need to go to your NSG and open port 3389. If you need to remote connect to a Linux VM and SSH to a Linux VM, you need to open port 22. So what do I do? I need to go to my NSG and open port 22. You can also specify source and destination IP addresses. You can say that you want some IP addresses. You want some IP addresses to be the only one accessing your resources, and you can also say you don't want any of these IP addresses accessing your resources. Okay, so you have your NSG to filter your network traffic to and fro to your Azure virtual network. Now, for the application security group, okay, it works like the same way as NSG, but in this case, now instead of specifying port 80, port 443, some people don't know port numbers. If you ask some people, what is the port number for FTP? They don't remember. What is the port number for SMTP? They don't remember. What is the port number for HTTPS? They don't know. What is the number for SMTP? They don't know. Now, for an instance whereby you don't remember port numbers, you can set an application security group and specify the name. Now, in NSG, you specify the port number, okay, which could be 80 or 443 or 21 or 25 or 445, okay? But in ASG, which is the application security group, you specify the port name. That is the difference. You specify the port name. Can you still see my screen? Hello? Hello, everyone?
No, we can't see your
It's loading.
screen.
It's loading.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. But you are following me, right?
Yes.
It's up now.
You following me, right?
Yes. We are
Yes,
following
I'm
you.
following. Your screen is on now.
Okay. So I'm quickly going through. Oh, somebody said we are not following. Okay. So you can put your question in the chat box. I'm going to look at it and possibly respond. Now, I'm at the NSG part. Now, NSG is different from ASG. For NSG, you are specifying port numbers. Let's say port 80, port 443, port 445. But for ASG, which is the application security group, you are specifying the name of the ports. So let's say the port number, everybody know port 80 is for HTTP. So instead of me specifying port 80, possibly I didn't remember the port number, then I can create an ASG and specify HTTP. Okay, so that is for ASG. And you can also restrict destination IPs. You can restrict source IPs. You can allow destination IPs, and you can allow source IPs. Okay, I'll be finishing in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Please bear with me. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, now somebody is asking, so what is the process of setting up a VPN on Azure? Okay, now to set up a VPN, there are two major types. We have the site-to-site VPN and we have point-to-site VPN. Okay, now for site-to-site VPN, you need, let's say, an on-prem. You have your on-prem services. You have inside your infrastructure on premises. Okay, you can connect to the Azure directly for for site to site. You have your office, and you want to access your VM from your on premises. You can create a site to site VPN. So how do you create it? You need to specify some things and create a VPN gateway. There are a lot of processes. You can check on the Microsoft documentation on how to do that. Okay. Now another part is point to site. Now point to site is for remote connectors, for remote users. So for instance, let's say now, for instance, we are at home working. For people working at home, we are at home working. You are not going to the office, but you need to access your resources on Azure. And how do you access your resources on Azure? And you want everybody to access the resources. You can create a point to site VPN. Okay, you can create a point to site VPN. But in an instance whereby everybody is in a single place, let's say in an office, for instance, and you want to access your VM on-prem, you will create a site-to-site VPN. Do you understand? Yes, it comes with a cost. Yes. Okay. Now, so where are we now? We are at the ASG. No, it's not free. No, it's not free. Okay. Now, so there are two parts to it. Now, there is something for the incoming traffic and the outgoing traffic. Now, for the incoming traffic, I think I'll verify, but I think the incoming traffic is free, but the outgoing traffic is charged. Okay, so when you are coming in, it's free. When you are going out, you are being charged. Okay, but for VPN, there's no way you come in and you will go out. Okay, so which means possibly you'll be charged. Okay. Now this is where I'm going to be stopping. Yeah. So now defense in depth. Now, if we discover this is how our defense has always been. This is how our defense has always been. So let's pick it from. I'm working with. Let me pick somewhere. I'm working with GTB, for instance. Okay. Now let's say I have a server room, for instance. Now the first line of defense is going to be what? Security gates. Yeah, am I correct? The first line of defense is going to be security gates. That's why you see security guards and you see security doors. So in that defense, you are implementing a physical security. In our era now, people are using thumbprints for you to even log in, to even access, to go into the database. You have your fingerprint. You have your fingerprint set up, okay? And then when you start the fingerprint, and it allows you access to the data center, or allow you access to the server room. So these are physical securities, okay? Your guards that you are putting there, those biometrics access you are putting on your server rooms. These are physical security. Those iris scanners you are putting. These are physical security. But do you know that physical security can be breached? Okay. Now, if your physical security is breached, then it comes down to the identity and access. Now, when we're talking about identity and access, this is what I meant. You know, when you log onto your VM, or okay, let me use this. When you log onto your system, it will come up with something called a username and password. Okay, it comes up with your username and passwords, and it's expected for you, before you can even go into the VM, you need to insert your username and passwords. Okay, and when you're inserting your username and password, there is a permission part to it. Now you can give a permission that these people should have a read-write access to my folders. You can say this person should have a read access to my folder. You can even say this person shouldn't have access to my folders at all. This is for the identity and the access. Now, the identity and the access itself can also be breached. Okay. Now, if it is being breached, then it comes to the perimeter. Now, the perimeter here is the firewalls. You will see companies creating firewalls in their infrastructure, especially when it comes when you need your application or your VM to go outside. You need your VM to be accessed outside your data center. Many people will implement a firewall so that they can restrict access to people logging in or people accessing their VMs. Okay. Now, if the perimeter is being breached, you can come to network. Okay. Now, for your network. Sorry. Sorry, do you have a question? Can I continue?
I guess you have.
Sorry, if you have a question, just put it in the chat box. I'm quickly running this so that we can quickly finish. Now, for the network.
Is your echo?
Oh, it's my echo. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Now, for the network, okay, so you can restrict access for the network. I can say I want people to have access to this network, but people shouldn't have access to this network. Okay, and there is a technology behind that. I want to remember the name. Okay, I've forgotten the name now. You can create something like a VLAN, for instance. You can create a VLAN, for instance, and say, okay, you want people to have access to this subnet, and people doesn't have access to this subnet, for instance. Now, if those point is being breached, it comes down to the compute itself. It comes down to your computer itself. Does your computer have firewalls? Does your computer have antivirus? Okay. Now, if your computer is being attacked, it comes down to your application. Okay. Your application itself, the application you are running, is it being protected? Okay. The source code running on your application, is your source code protected? Can't your source code be attacked? Now, source code can be attacked, and if it's been attacked, it comes down to your data. Now, if your data is being taken off your system, data is the precious thing in the world now. Data is more like an oil. Now, if your data is being gotten by a wrong person, the person can do a whole lot of things with your data. Okay. Now, data too can also be attacked. Okay. Now, this is how your defense should be. This is how your defense should be. Now, on Azure, Azure will provide a physical security for you. It will provide an identity and access for you. It will provide a perimeter for you. Now, from the network, compute, application, and data protection, you need to do all those things yourself. And how do you do all those things? We are going to do that next class. And next class could be possibly next week, Monday. We are going to continue with the Azure Fundamentals. Okay. I don't know if anybody have a question. This is where I'll be stopping today. I don't know if anybody has a question. No questions? Okay, fine. Okay, now, so thank you very much. It makes sense. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very. Sorry for taking our time. We are done. Okay. Now tomorrow is another day. We'll be having another speaker tomorrow. Now the speaker tomorrow is a very, very interesting speaker. I had him speak before on LinkedIn. He's a Sophos engineer in UK, and he works mostly on Azure. He's in Nigeria, but he is based in the UK. So he's going to expose us to Azure penetration testing on Azure. How to do a penetration testing on Azure. Okay, how to do a penetration testing on Azure. He's going to take us through. His name is Shegun. He's a wonderful guy. I've had him speak on LinkedIn before. So I want to beg us or employ us to be here tomorrow by 6:30 so that we could have this section. I believe this week is going to be a very, very interesting week because I've checked through all the topics we have this week, and all of them, it makes a lot of sense. They are very, very important sections, and I won't want any of us to miss any of this section. Okay, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us on this call, and tomorrow is another day, and